Welcome back to the deep dive. All right, so let's just jump right in. For years, for as long as I can remember, every business development pro has lived by this one core principle.
That personalization is the absolute bedrock of trust.
Exactly. You have to tailor your outreach, a generic message that's basically done on arrival. But what if that foundational belief, that really personalized outreach, what if that's precisely what's turning your buyer off?
Well, that is the core conflict, isn't it? It's what we're calling the personalization paradox. Prospects, they demand customization, they won't engage with spam, but they have this incredibly sensitive threshold.
And it's a poorly defined one.
Very. And if you cross that line, you don't just lose a prospect, you actively repel them.
That's right. So our mission in this deep dive is to really synthesize the hard data, the frameworks, and, the specific behaviors that draw that line between helping and
being creepy.
And being outright creepy. We're trying to give you the blueprint for walking that tightrope.
And this isn't just some theoretical thing. The stakes are, well, they're quantified. When your personalization feels manipulative, it doesn't just lower interest, it actively crushes trust.
And when trust drops,
your PWIN, your probability of win, it just takes a massive hit. This is about protecting your funnel by avoiding that feeling that you're watching them rather than helping them.
Okay, so let's start by defining our terms. Because personalization, it's a pretty big spectrum. We're talking everything from, just using someone's name all the way up to hyper-personalization.
Which people also call contextual marketing or conversational commerce. And look, the ultimate goal, the ethical goal, should be empathy. It should be showing you understand their pain points. But the second your content feels like it's just exploiting their data or pandering to some cognitive bias you read about, the perception flips instantly.
From helpful to manipulative.
And that can just torpedo a deal before it even begins.
The data on this is it's kind of stunning. Let's look at the demand side first. A 2018 Accenture study found that a massive 91% of buyers
91, that's almost everybody,
are more likely to shop with a corporation that tailors their experience. So it's a mandate. You have to do it.
But here's where the paradox just slams into you. Take a look at the rejections then. A Gartner study from 2019 showed that a majority of buyers will just unsubscribe.
Okay.
And 38%, a huge number, will stop buying entirely from a company they feel is providing, and this is the quote, too much personalization.
Wow. So 91% demand it, but 38% will fire you if you overdo it. We have to figure out where that line is. What does the research say triggers that creep factor?
Well, Accenture gave us some really clear examples of what buyers found intrusive. So, for example, 41% of people said text ads popping up on their phone when they were physically walking past a store.
Oh, that's creepy.
That was creepy, yeah. And 35% found it invasive when ads on social media appeared after they had just looked at a product on a website.
So it's about tracking, real-time location, or browsing history.
It seems to be. But the tracking itself isn't universally hated, and this is key. We know personalization is welcome when it's based on expected behavior.
Like what?
A study by Cheetah Digital found that 82% of buyers welcome a personalized product recommendation if it's based on their past purchases.
Okay, so that makes sense. It's historical, explicit data. They know they gave it to you.
Exactly. The creepiness seems to be linked to that inferred, predictive, or, surveillance-based stuff.
Yeah.
And that distinction, explicit versus inferred, it forces us to be more structured. Business developers really need a framework here.
And that's where the personalization pyramid comes in.
Exactly. It structures the depth of your personalization based on the data you're using, from the very basic to the extremely invasive.
Okay, so let's detail those 4 levels. What's at the bottom? The foundation.
Level 1. The base of the pyramid. This uses the broadest data. Contact info, demographics, firmographics.
So company size, industry, that kind of thing.
Right. Or govographics. It's
Yeah.
all simple, accessible, and it's very low risk.
Then we move up to level 2. This is where I think the jargon can get a little thick for some BD teams.
It can. Level 2 starts adding nuance. It's based on infographic, psychographic, or technographic information.
Okay, break that down for us.
We're talking about understanding their attitudes, their interests, their motivations. That's psychographics, or technographics, which is, the specific software and tools they already use.
So it's moving beyond just who they are to how they operate.
Precisely.
And level 3, that really ramps up the information you need, right? It relies on immediate signals.
Absolutely. Level 3 uses real-time online and offline intent signals. So Social media comments, likes, shares, these are usually triggered by engagement, emotion, and event data. You're reacting in the moment to something they expressed.
And then level 4, the top of the pyramid, the biggest data investment.
Level 4 is based entirely on the prospect's real-time behavior triggers.
So what they click on, what they download,
How they scroll, where they spend time on a page. It's the deepest, most individualized data.
which also makes it the riskiest when you're trying to avoid that creep factor.
It's the highest risk, highest reward level.
Okay, so we have 4 levels. How do we decide which one is right for a given prospect? This is where intent thresholds become so critical.
Right. The amount of personalization that's actually beneficial, it's directly proportional to the complexity of your product and the prospect's intent threshold.
An intent threshold.
Think of it this way. A simple, low-complexity product, that's a low intent threshold or LIT decision.
So low risk, easy to adopt.
Exactly. It doesn't require a ton of personalization to justify the spend.
So the big takeaway here is, if it's a simple tool, a LIT decision, we should probably stay at levels 1 or 2.
Precisely. If you're selling, say, a straightforward $50 annual subscription, spending weeks gathering level 4 behavior data is a complete and total waste of effort.
But on the other hand,
high intent threshold or HIT products. So, major enterprise software, high-risk contracts. They demand level 3 and 4 personalization.
because the prospect needs that level of detail to justify the investment and the risk they're taking on.
You got it.
So the business insight is really twofold. You save resources by not over-personalizing simple deals, and you lower your creep risk.
Yeah, you stop wasting your time. Investing too much reduces your total sales capacity, and even worse, you risk actively alienating people by making them feel like they're being watched.
Okay, so trust is the key word here. It's the multiplier. How can a business developer actually model where that creepy threshold is for someone? We can turn to a framework McKinsey presented back in 2017, the personalization value equation, or PVE.
This is such a powerful mental model. Even if you can't, quantify every variable perfectly, the equation is PVE equals relevance plus timeliness.
Okay.
That whole sum is multiplied by trust, and then the whole thing is divided by the loss of privacy.
That structure immediately highlights the tension, doesn't it? Relevance and timeliness, those are the positive things we control. My message is useful, it arrives when you need it. But that's all dependent on 2 other huge variables.
Right. First, look at the multiplier, trust. If a prospect has 0 trust in you or your brand, that entire numerator becomes 0.
Which means the PVE is 0.
A 0 PVE means any outreach, I don't care how relevant it is automatically perceived as creepy.
And then you have that massive threat in the denominator, loss of privacy.
Yep. If my super relevant, timely level 4 outreach is seen as requiring a massive breach of privacy.
That denominator gets huge, and it drives the whole score down into the negative.
That's why McKinsey said it's not an exact science. How do you quantify perceived loss of privacy?
Right.
It's hard. But the equation proves that technical skill will never, ever save you from a crisis of trust.
This whole dance, then, around data and relevance and trust, it's all governed by what we call the social contract. The Oxford definition is the desirable and usually mutually accepted forms of interaction among individuals and groups in their social environment.
And in a sales environment, that prospect-to-prospect social contract gets activated the moment a prospect shows intent, the moment they enter the activation phase.
And it governs every single interaction all the way through conversion.
Right. Until they sign the actual business contract and get to the success phase, you are not governed by business rules. You are governed by social norms.
So we've established that breaking that corporate social contract drives the PVE score down. But who delivers the message?
The salesperson.
The salesperson. And that's where the psychology comes in. When that PVE score goes negative, it triggers a really primal personal alarm.
Exactly. There was a 2018 study that hypothesized that feeling creeped out is, and I quote, an emotional response to ambiguity about the presence of a threat.
Ambiguity about a threat.
Yes.
Yep.
When your actions are ambiguous about your intent, you force the prospect into this state of heightened vigilance. You've basically triggered their survival mechanism.
And that study went even further. It identified specific personal attributes that increase the perception of creepiness. This is so crucial for BD folks who are the face of their company. What was some of the standout findings there about just, basic personal conduct?
There were clear behavioral things that ranked highest in increasing that creep factor, which directly violate the social contract of a professional meeting.
So what are the biggest red flags on that list that a rep might accidentally show?
Well, anything that signals poor self-regulation or unpredictability. The list had things like poor grooming, odd clothing, but also peculiar facial expressions like licking lips or unpredictable laughing.
Wow.
But critically, two behaviors that show up in bad sales calls ranked very highly: standing too close when talking,
Okay, personal space.
and, maybe most importantly, an unwillingness to stop talking.
That inability to read the room, it's not just rude, it's literally increasing the perceived threat level.
That's the takeaway for business development. A prospector has to make sure their own personal behavior sticks to those norms.
So if you show up looking or acting unpredictably, your amazing, relevant, level 4 personalized pitch, it's just dead on arrival.
The ambiguity of the messenger completely overrides the relevance of the message.
That was a really critical look at this paradox. Let's try to synthesize our top 3 most actionable takeaways from all this.
Okay, number 1, embrace the paradox and know the stats. Personalization is absolutely mandatory. We saw the 91% number,
Yep.
but you have to remember that 38% will walk away if you overstep. So your focus has to be on being helpful and relevant, not manipulative.
Got it. Takeaway number 2.
Match personalization to the intent threshold. Use that pyramid strategically. Don't deploy resource-heavy, level 4 behavioral triggers for a simple, low-risk product.
Save your deepest data for the complex, high-intent threshold deals where that value is really needed.
Precisely. And number 3, trust is your PVE multiplier. Always frame your success with the personalization value equation. Trust is paramount. A great message is worthless if the prospect feels a massive loss of privacy or if they just don't trust you to begin with.
The denominator and the multiplier will always decide your fate.
Always.
We know this social contract is constantly being redefined by technology. We're spending so much effort on value creation, on relevance and timeliness, but we want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on.
When level 4 personalization based entirely on these complex behavior triggers, when that becomes the industry standard, how do we even begin to accurately measure that perceived loss of privacy? And, maybe more fundamentally, can a superior value proposition ever truly overcome a core psychological breach of that underlying social contract?
Something to think about for your next sales interaction. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the true cost of personalization. We hope this helps you find that perfect balance between engaging and, well, alarming your next prospect.